Welcome to the Authority Journey podcast with Kathryn Aragon, award-winning marketer, strategist, 8-times author, coach, and founder of KA Media. Kathryn takes you on the journey of moving from being an expert to becoming a legacy leader in your field. Join us each week as she explores the authority journey and what it takes to influence, lead, and succeed.
Welcome to the Authority Journey podcast. Achieving your most audacious goals doesn't happen by accident. Explore the authority journey and what it takes to influence, lead, and succeed. My name is Kathryn Aragon, and I'm your host for today's episode, Overcomers Keep Going No Matter What. You see, talent and success don't protect us from hardships and pains. Even the best of us face trials and bad things, because the truth is, bad things happen to all of us. But real overcomers keep going no matter what. Listen in as I tell you how one man overcame, and I give you 6 traits of serial overcomers. Cliff DeVries isn't your stereotypical diving coach. Sure, he's got the pedigree. 17 years as the diving coach for RIT Tigers, 8 All-Americans, the first diving coach to receive the prestigious Richard E. Stedman Award by the College Swimming and Diving Coaches Association of America. He started diving when he was a freshman in high school, and his natural talent earned him a full-ride scholarship to the University of Kentucky. From there, he set his sights on the Olympics. It was a shoo-in. He was so talented, and he was progressing so quickly. He was sure he could make it to the team. But it didn't take long before his training began to stall out. He felt like he was going backwards, not forwards, and largely because of an unexplained issue with his shoulder. His shoulder was losing strength. Well, he soon wasn't able to swim at all. He was doing belly flops rather than beautiful dives that were needed to actually stay on the team. So he lost his scholarship. Next, he heard from the doctors, "Cliff, you're going to die. You've got a 6-inch tumor in your spinal cord." Well, according to Cliff, that took his breath away, and you can imagine it would. He said all these plans of a future, a family, everything was wiped away. It was gut-wrenching. At this time, Cliff was just 21 years old. Imagine just starting your life and all of this falling in your lap. Surgery was supposed to remove 90% of the tumor. Everyone was very hopeful. But after working on him for 13 hours, he was left paralyzed from the neck down. Frustrated, as you can expect, he got tired of hearing what he couldn't or wouldn't be able to do. And he decided that he would do whatever it takes to regain whatever he could. It took years of therapy from that point, and he did manage to recover function on his left side. Not a lot, mind you, but enough that he could walk without a walker or help, just a little off balance. And he was able to become a diving coach. But unlike other coaches, he couldn't show off to his students. I'd say show off. He couldn't show his students how to do different things. He couldn't go to the board and demonstrate. And he says he missed that split second between the dive and the water. Well, fast forward 20 years. Last year, 2019, his 46th birthday was coming up. And he decided, you know what? I could dive. I can do this. And he decided what better way to celebrate his birthday. And he was right. There is a video online, you'll have to go look for it, where it's October 30th, 2019, and there are crowds of people around the swimming pool. And like a rock star, he comes out of this room in his swim trunks and he drags himself. I know this walk where one leg works fairly well, but the other one you kind of pull behind you. It's that walk that he's doing around the pool to the high dive. One leg at a time, he can pull himself up the ladder. And as he starts making his way to the edge of the diving board, he's got the bars on either side to hold him steady. But when the bars fall away and he's nearing the edge, he nearly falls. Someone has to come up behind him and hold on to him to make sure he can make it to the edge of the diving board. At that moment, he probably, like every diver who's ever dived, like the true professional he is, he does the mental game. He looks at the dive. He knows what it's going to look like. He throws his left arm in the air and pitches forward. It is a beautiful dive for a man who is paralyzed. It was amazing to watch. And of course, the crowd erupted. It was wonderful to watch. Here's what he says. You're not going to find a lot of beauty in what I do, but it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of emotions, and it's all balled into a little half-second fall into the water. What a way to celebrate, right? Here's what I want you to take away from this. Overcomers keep going, no matter what. What I want to talk with you today about is the fact that life is never easy. It doesn't hand us our dreams on a silver platter. And many, many times when it does, it takes them back. Like Cliff. He was a natural at diving. From the moment he got on the board and joined that first team in high school, they knew this was a man who could make a career out of diving. And in fact, he has. But he wasn't supposed to be able to. He was supposed to live the rest of his life in a wheelchair. And yet, on his 46th birthday, he took an ugly dive into a pool and inspired millions. We can do anything we want to do, just about. There are limits, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about 6 things that you need to do to be able to overcome whatever comes into your life. Those unhappy moments, those things that just seem to sideline you. How do you overcome? First, you have to realize your situation doesn't define you. You are not being punished from the universe, by the universe. Things don't happen because you need to learn a lesson. Bad things happen to all of us. When I was flat on my back in bed, I had so many people come over to encourage me and say, what did you do to make God so mad at you? And my thought is, how dare you come and presume to understand what's going on in my own life? How dare you presume that bad things happen to me because I'm a bad person? The truth is, bad things happen to all of us. That's just a fact of life. If you're alive, if you're breathing, bad things are going to happen. You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to need to overcome. So the first thing you need to do is realize that your situation doesn't say anything about you. It doesn't define you or anything about you. Number 2, accept the reality of what has happened. They talk in Alcoholics Anonymous that you can't fix something that you haven't actually admitted to. So how do they introduce themselves? Hello, my name is so-and-so, and I'm an alcoholic. And that's just a daily reminder that I have this thing I need to overcome. I have this thing that it's now the reality of my life. And having admitted it, the reality of the situation, I can overcome it. That's the power of being realistic. Now, there are a lot of people who fall into this positivity camp, and I'm actually a very positive person. I can be very optimistic about almost just anything. But the fact of the matter is, you just saying something doesn't exist doesn't make that thing go away. That's just, you can't whitewash the truth. That will never, ever happen. So after my injury, when they first lifted my left leg, they held up the heel, and I was supposed to hold up my leg. And when they let go of my heel, my leg just flopped. I had absolutely no control over it at all. And, but then A couple of days, I guess it was the next day, they did the same thing, and I bore down. I was like, "Arr!" And I was able to hold that leg up. So progress, my nerves were trying to figure out how to work. So I had made this huge amount of progress. And boy, you can imagine the celebration in my room when that happened. So first thing they did was go get me a walker and stand me up on the walker and like put a leash on me so I couldn't fall and walked me around the hospital room. And it was exhausting. I wasn't really walking. I had one leg that I could move and the other leg that I could just barely hold up if they let go of the heel. What I realize now that I was doing at that time was I was moving my right leg forward and I was using my muscles in my rib cage or around my hip because my hip didn't work either to kind of swing that leg forward. With the walker holding me up, I could do this and it kind of looks like walking. It's not really walking, it's navigating forward. Well, the word in the community was, oh, she can walk. That was whitewashing the truth. I wasn't really walking. I had no strength. I was still seriously disabled. That's something we need to be very, very careful about. You need to accept the reality of your situation. Some challenges can be overcome, but some can't. And we need to be able to live in that space between what I want to happen and what is really happening, and be comfortable with not knowing where it's going to go or how far it's going to go. On that day, I saw a huge step forward from not being able to hold up my leg at all to being able to hold it up and kind of swivel around on a walker. I wasn't still walking, and I didn't know if I would progress to the point that I could walk. But I had to be comfortable living in that reality because if I say, "Oh, look, she's walking. Yay, I can walk now." I'm overlooking the truth, which is I still had a lot of work that needed to go in to regain function. You can't whitewash the truth. That's not the way we recover. It's not the way we move forward when bad things happen. Number 3, visualize your best life in your new reality. You will need to adapt. COVID, great example. We are all still reeling. It's starting to feel normal almost. That's the sad thing. But the reality is, work isn't changing. Travel isn't changing. Our ability to get together with family over holidays and special events, that's not changing. We need to be able to adapt. We need to visualize our best life in this new reality because the truth is, it's not going to change anytime soon, as much as we want it to. And this goes back to number 2, accept the reality of what happened. And we're in that space in between where it looks like things might get better, but we're not there yet. So we have to adapt. We have to live comfortably in this moment. And for me, that meant, okay, I can't sit at a desk. For me, actually, because I call it open back surgery, where they sliced open my spinal cord and scraped a blood clot off. If I sat up at all, I got massive spinal headaches, and those headaches lasted for more than a year. I was flat on my back for 4 years, actually. And for me, life wasn't going to stop for 4 years. That just wasn't an option. It was very difficult to think about going outside, and it would require a massive amount of coordination with family and, maybe my children who all had their own things to do. I was not going to burden them with carrying me around and making me comfortable. But I had also just started an agency the year prior. And so what I did is we set up a tray that I could set my laptop on, and that tray, every morning, they bring me my computer and I can touch type. So with my keyboard on my lap, because I couldn't carry the weight of the computer on my lap, but I could set the computer beside me, tilt it really low where I could see the screen, and put a remote keyboard on my lap. That's how I worked for years. Nobody even knew. That's why I wasn't doing videos back then, 9 years ago now. Can you imagine? We have to adapt, and there are so many ways we can be creative about how that happens. We need to find ways to be happy, and many times it's just about doing your work, finding a new normal, adapting to that normal. Sometimes we have to find new things that we enjoy doing. I was just reading an article by Michael J. Fox, and he was listing the number of things that he can no longer do. But he says, but I can still write, and I enjoy it. So that's what he's leaning into. Find what you can do. Find new ways of doing other things, because you need to be able to succeed where you are. Number 4, don't settle. Having just said you need to adapt, I'm going to tell you, don't settle. Always push the limits of what's possible. I had the absolute best diagnostician in Texas. If you've ever watched the show House, he was the House in the state of Texas. And he told me, stem cells, that's a waste of money. I can't believe you did that. I had just come back from, was it my second or third treatment? I think it was my second. And it brought a lot of fear up to have him say that. I had so many people tell me, they said, you'll never walk again. And these are experts. These are not just like friends on the street. You'll never walk again. You'll never get off these meds on other situations. But you know what? One thing I learned, you can do the work that allows your body to heal. And you need to do that work because there is hope. Look at Cliff DeVries. This man was told he would live the rest of his life in a wheelchair. And he is a diving coach. And at 46 took a dive, an ugly dive, but a real dive off the high board. That's a man who didn't settle. He didn't he accepted his reality, and he works within the confines of that reality, but he pushed those limits, and he did end up able to push back the limits of his capabilities. Me, I was told I'd never walk again, and if you were to watch me walking right now, you wouldn't know I have a spinal cord injury. You wouldn't know that I just 9 years ago, I couldn't even hold myself up. My legs were curling up under me. Without assistance, I couldn't even get to the doctor to figure out what was wrong with me. Don't settle. You do need to accept your new reality, but push the limits. Be creative. Figure out what you can do, because that's where you're going to find your happiness. Number 6, nourish your mind and body. Your body is constantly renewing itself. And this is when I say do the work to facilitate healing. There is a lot of work that you can do. Your body, every cell in your body replaces itself. Like, I forget what it is. I think the liver is 100% replaced every 10 years. Think about that. I had a doctor at the time when all the specialists, what he told me was, he said, when all the specialists are done with you, come to me. I'll help you. And his philosophy was very simple. Your body is always renewing itself. So feed your body. Give your body the nutrition and the nutrients that it needs to be able to heal. That's what I spent the last 9 years doing, and it's probably why I'm walking. That and stem cell. But you need to be willing to put in the extra effort. I didn't actually have a doctor telling me these specific nutrients will help you. So it took a lot of research. It took a lot of experimentation, but I did finally hone in on this nice cocktail of supplements that works really, really well for me. And it's kind of, all it is good health and anti-aging, but it's what my body needs to be able to regenerate. Now, if you remember earlier, I told you some things can't be overcome. And that is the truth. You have to keep that in mind. There is this balance that we have to find. When I was in Panama getting stem cell the very first time, I met a lot of people who were way worse off than I was. I was partially paralyzed. I had a lot of feeling. I had a lot of mobility compared to other people. One woman had been shot in the neck. She couldn't move anything but her face. Her hands were in pain, nerve pain, all the time. And she had caretakers. It took 2 caretakers to work with her because she was dead weight. She couldn't do anything. And they had to put pillows on her lap and very gently arrange her hands on them. And every now and then she would have to say, move them, because of the pain she was in. Maybe for her, stem cell could get her beyond that pain, but she was never, ever going to walk again. No amount of work was going to give her back all of her function. She could make progress, maybe, hopefully. She wouldn't have been there if the doctors didn't believe they could help her. But the truth is, Cliff DeVries and I are very lucky. Most injuries of the type that we sustained you don't recover from. That said, if you're nourishing your body and if you're doing the work to recover, you might be able to recover. Now, this episode is not about spinal cord injuries. This episode is not about physical injuries per se. This is about overcoming any obstacle. And any obstacle, if you will nourish your mind and body, you can overcome. So let me make this a little more generic. For me, it was about taking supplements and protecting my mind, because it would be really, really easy to give in to all that negativity that was just coming from every direction, well-meaning friends, but also doctors. You can't listen to that kind of garbage. Your body is renewing itself. Your mind is renewing itself. Your energy levels, they need to be renewed as well. You need to maintain hope without expectations, and that is a fine balance. You need to keep your stress levels down, whatever it takes. A lot of people do meditation. I do sort of meditation. I'm not good at it, but I'm after peace. I protect my home. There are some energies I don't want in my home. I don't want to disrupt my life that way. I want to maintain peace, and I will protect it at all costs, because that's how I stay positive. You need to do the self-work to resolve whatever stuff is in your history, whatever stuff got, left behind, stuff that nags at you. Do the self-work to heal that, because you need to heal your mind and your body so you are able to overcome. Seriously. Okay, number 6, celebrate what you can do. Your value does not lie in what you do or what you achieve. You don't have anything to prove. You don't have to prove yourself, your faith, your intelligence, your strength. None of that is a part of what's going on in your life. So you just need to lay that down. You have nothing to prove. You are of value. You just need to accept that. Any work you do towards overcoming, that's for you. That's not for anybody else. But you need to, aside from all that, you're pushing the limits, you're trying to overcome, never accept defeat. Push for that win, because it's your win. But at the same time, just celebrate what you already can do. I could hold up my left leg. That was a really big deal on day 2 after my surgery. It was a really big deal. I celebrated that. How many years was it in? 3 years in? Nobody was home, and I wanted some banana bread, and I went my way to the kitchen, and I made banana bread all by myself. Now, understand that at this time, if I held something heavier than my iPhone, I could damage my back, and I would be down for flat, unable to do anything for 2 more months. So for me to be able to lift a bowl and chop pecans and all the work of putting something into the oven, that was a huge deal. And for me, I love cooking. I actually, after I made that bread, I cried. It was a happy cry. I never thought I would do this again. And look what I did. Celebrate what you can do. Push for what you can't do, but accept your reality. It's a challenge, isn't it? There's this balance. But overcomers keep going no matter what. So how do we do it? Let's recap. Number 1, realize your situation doesn't define you. Number 2, accept the reality of what has happened. Number 3, visualize your best life in your new reality. Number 4, don't settle. Always push the limits of what's possible. Number 5, nourish your mind and body. Number 6, celebrate what you can do. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to the Authority Journey podcast and get involved by visiting KathrynAragon.com. I'm Kathryn Aragon, wishing you a happy, successful, fulfilling journey. Stay awesome.